3 strategies for selling coins at a profit. Flipping coins, you might say. We're going to be talking about this from whether you're a collector who's just trying to find some easy flips at a coin show, or whether you're an aspiring dealer like myself. This is a good thing to know no matter which side of the transaction you're on in the coin business. So let's get right into it. I'm Parker of Walking Liberty Coins, and we're just going to jump straight into the first strategy because I don't have an intro for this channel yet. First strategy is you buy from people who are selling it in a hurry. Now this, along with the other 2, but this is probably the most controversial of the 3 strategies, and I don't really understand why, to be honest with you. If you are trying to sell something fast, you should expect to have to sell it at a discount, right? If you're trying to sell your house and you want to get the full market value for it based on comps or whatever, like let's say based on comps, your house is worth $500,000. That's fine. You could probably get $500,000 for it if that's really the market price. But if you want to sell it this week, you're not selling it for $500,000. You're selling it for a good 10, 20% less than that. You're going to have to sell it for a deal, right? So it is with everything else, including coins. You see this when people go into coin stores, especially when they're trying to sell bullion, because there's no debate about what the price of bullion is, right? There's plenty of debate where it's going to be. But right now, spot price for silver is $85, whatever it is. And you'll see people, maybe this is you. If it is you, you need to chill out a little bit. You'll see people try and go and get $85 for their ounces of silver. And it's like, dude, no. You're not getting every dime of spot price when you're just walking into a store selling it. Why? Because the store isn't buying it for its own sake. The store is buying it because they're trying to flip it for a profit. You need to let them make $1 or $2 on each one at least. And when the market's really volatile like this, and Lord only knows if it's going to be above $80 tomorrow, you need to let them make a little bit more. Or you need to let them buy it at a bigger discount because they might really need that headroom in order to make money on it at all. And the same thing goes for coins. I mean, it's the price of any given coin depends on the year and series and condition. So it's more variable, but we still have Gray Sheet, the PCGS price guide to a lesser extent. We have ways to tell what something is worth. eBay is a great resource. And if you are buying from somebody who's selling it quickly, like they are if they just walk into a coin store, you can buy it at a discount and flip it. This is not a great strategy for people like me, and if you're watching this, probably for people like you, because these people aren't just walking through your door every day like they are at a coin shop. If you have a brick and mortar store, this is a great way to make money. If you don't, you can put a post up on Craigslist. You can market yourself some other way. I don't know exactly how maybe like snail mail. I don't know. If you have a client base, you can reach out to them and say, hey, I'm always in the market for buying coins or old paper money. But you're going to get fewer bites on that in a month than a coin shop does in a day. A brick and mortar coin shop does in a day, especially in a market like this. So that's not a great strategy when you're just starting out. It's just as effective, but it's much harder to get volume that way. Which brings us to the other 2 strategies where I'm going to spend most of our time, because that's where I spend most of my time personally, because I don't have walk-ins. The second strategy, and this is slightly less controversial, but still controversial, and I'll get into that. Second strategy is cherry picking. Cherry picking is a great strategy. If you're not familiar, cherry picking is identifying key dates in die varieties, or rare dates and rare die varieties, in usually in a dealer's inventory. A die variety, if you're not familiar, is something like a double die obverse or a VAM in the Morgan and Peace world. It's where it's distinct from a mint error because it's built right into the die, the thing they cast the coin with. And there are varieties of these dies where there's slight differences. And some of them are pretty insignificant, not worth anything, but some of them really are significant and they're worth quite a lot. In any case, if you familiarize yourself with these well enough that you can spot them when you just look at a coin, it's not hard at all to find unattributed ones in dealers' inventories. They just have it listed as, a 1942 Walking Liberty half dollar, and it's actually a 1942 double die obverse Walking Liberty half dollar. I think it's 42 is actually on the reverse. Beside the point, you find some dive variety, you find some key date. Usually the key date of a series is going to be pretty hard to find. I wouldn't hold your breath looking for a 1893S Morgan dollar, right? But you might find, I did find actually, I found a 1938 Denver Walking Liberty half dollar. And those are worth probably double the melt value. And I found it in the dealer's inventory priced at melt value because it was pretty beat up. This is controversial to some people because they feel that you should inform the dealer that they've made a mistake in their pricing. Like, hey, this is a 38D. This is worth $40, not $20. I'd like to buy it, though. If you do that, generally dealers are just going to honor the price. That's frankly what they should do in my assessment. Because here's the deal. Dealers know that key dates and die varieties exist. They're not dumb. They're in the business, for crying out loud. Like, they know about this. So when they get inventory, when they buy inventory, they know that they could spend some time with it and go through it with their loop and look for double dies or look for key and semi-key dates. If they don't do that, they know they're leaving money on the table. That's a conscious decision to them. We're not talking about an ignorant person. I mean, just to be clear, if somebody trusts you, like in the first strategy, right? Like somebody, you had to walk in. Somebody doesn't know a lot about coins or just, get grandpa's old coin stash. Nobody really wants it. Just sell it. If you lie to that person, somebody who doesn't know about coins, they come to get what it's worth. They ask you, what's this worth? They're trusting you to give them a fair price, and you lie and you say, oh, these are just a bunch of common date Morgans, and they're actually all Carson Cities, but they don't know what they're talking about. So you figure you can take them for a ride and buy it for 10% of what it's worth. I sincerely hope the worst for you. I mean, I generally don't pray on people's downfall, but that's disgusting. That's not what we're talking about, though. We're not talking about somebody who doesn't know any better. We're talking about dealers. Generally speaking, with cherry picking, we're talking about dealers. Certainly that's what I'm talking about. That is a completely different story. A dealer has actively decided to not go through their inventory with a fine-tooth comb and find everything in there that's worth more than what it immediately appears to be, right? They would rather just move it than go through it carefully and sell it for a little bit more. It's just not worth it to them. That's the decision that they've made. And it's perfectly understandable, especially in this market, right? When metals just keep going up and up and up, volume is insane, just trading volume in general. Totally understandable on dealers' part to just not care if there's a double die somewhere in the 400 Mercury dimes they just bought. They're just going to sell them all as junk silver. So this is a great time for cherry picking. Fantastic time, especially because a lot of the prices have not been updated to reflect the current market value. This is a fantastic time. And I don't feel not one lick bad about it because, again, this is a decision that they've made. Now, where do you want to go cherry picking? If you have a local coin store, go there. You'll get a feel for the store when you walk in. Some stores really want to watch you while you're going through all their stuff, and some will just kind of get a tray out, put it on the table, help somebody else. They'll just let you go through it all day. I had a guy just earlier today tell me, I came to the store really close to close without realizing it, and he said, look, just come back tomorrow. I'll get a tray out for you, and you can just look through it all day long. And that's just the kind of store it is. They don't really care if you just sit there for an hour and go through something. They don't feel the need to supervise you the whole time. Some of them do. You're going to want to be a little faster there. Same thing goes for coin shows. You're going to want to be a little bit faster. I'll make a whole video about cherry picking, actually. Suffice to say, let me get you some reference material here. You're going to want to get the Cherry Picker's Guide. You can get basic information about rare dates and die varieties from PCGS's price guide. There's a little plus sign next to some of the stuff, and you can just go look at that. Pretty quickly find the goods. But this is a lot better because it has pictures and descriptions of exactly what you're looking for every single variety. Buy the Cherry Picker's Guide. It'll pay for itself if you use it at all. But that's beside the point. We'll make another whole video about cherry picking and what tips I have developed in the little bit of time that I've been doing it. If you have any advice, by the way, go ahead and drop that in the comments, because you're probably going to teach me something as much as you are somebody else. Again, I'm relatively new to this in a business where people have been doing it for decades and decades. The third and final strategy for making money on a coin or a banknote is identifying items that are mispriced for the condition that they are in. This is, of course, like cherry picking, because you're looking for mispriced items in dealers' inventories. I'd heard about this strategy before, and I just didn't get it and kind of wrote it off because my grandma, without her reading glasses on, could tell you the difference between a beat-up coin and a new coin, or a like new coin. Same thing for notes. How are you going to find stuff that has unrecognized condition? Like, before you notice the date, before you notice the mint mark, before you notice the variety, the first thing you see when you look at the coin is what condition is it in, right? Just immediately. So how are you going to find stuff that's mispriced? And the answer is, it took me a while to figure it out because nobody just came out and said it. You're especially looking for different degrees of mint state. Like, if you manage to find a coin that's priced like it's VF20, but it's actually almost uncirculated, good for you, man. You know, take the money and run. But I don't think it's going to happen. I wouldn't hold your breath anyway. That's certainly not something to really keep an eye out for. I mean, you'd probably notice it if you saw it, because if you know anything about the series, you see a lot of coins and how they're priced. In any given series, it would immediately jump out at you like, dude, that's a gem, and it's priced like a, common that's beat half to unrecognizability. So there, you might find that. You probably won't. Probably what you're going to find is something that's labeled BU, brilliant uncirculated, or just gem. But that upon further inspection really could probably score an MS64, MS65, even 63 is quite a bit better than 60, right? If you spend any amount of time on price guides, you know that the difference between like VF20, VF30, VF30 and XF40, XF40 and AU50, it's not big jumps, right, in price. There's exceptions, really rare stuff, right? It might be worth quite a bit more in a better condition, especially if better condition, what's the word I'm looking for, specimens didn't tend to survive very much. But anything is going to be much more valuable in MS65 than MS60. So if you can train your eye to recognize the difference between different degrees of mint state, you really have a solid chance with this strategy. I mean, this is everywhere. You can find stuff that's mispriced this way at every coin show, at just about every coin store. Easy money. The problem is it's hard to recognize, which is why it doesn't get identified in the first place. If you could pretty quickly learn how to see the difference between MS65 and MS61, if you could just train somebody to do that in an afternoon, then there'd be no opportunities, because people would look at something and say, oh, it's a 65, send it off to PCGS, MGC, CAC, whoever, and get it graded, get the 65, sell it on Great Collections or wherever in an MS65 holder, and make, double their money on it. Double what they would be selling it for as a gem or BU in just a little cardboard holder. But it is hard to recognize. So this is an advanced strategy, admittedly. But if you can train your eye, and I have a tip for this, if you can train your eye to recognize those differences, there's a great opportunity here. Now, obviously, how do I learn to do this, Parker? Like, it's cool and all, but like, how do I learn to do this? Obviously, the best way is going to be to just look at a lot of graded coins, MS graded coins, under magnification. Obviously. You can do that at coin shows for free. That's a little bit harder to do because coin shows don't happen every day, unfortunately. I do have a trick for you, though. My dog is snoring. I apologize. I hope he's dreaming of mint state mercury dimes. My strategy for this is you go to Great Collections. If you've been doing this very long, you know all about Great Collections. Great Collections is a great place to buy and sell coins. You look at the series that you're trying to develop a better eye for, because here's the other thing about this. It's not just about condition in the ordinary sense. It's not just about how much of the design has been worn off, because there's 11 different levels of mint state, from 60 to 70 inclusive. That's 11 different mint state grades. None of them are allowed to have wear. Any amount of wear, any amount of circulation, that's AU at best. One of the things, if you read like the grading standards on any of the grading sites, they'll tell you one of the things they're looking at is strike quality. And you really need to train your eye to that, to each specific series, so you know what you're looking for. There's some general rules of thumb. But like, for example, on Walking Liberty Halves, you really need to pay attention to Liberty's head, the folds of her dress at the bottom, and the stripes on her dress going up her leg. Those are like the first things that really jump out about strike quality. Her hand also a little bit, but that's well, the hand that's on her, that's holding the bouquet, that's a huge one, because that's like famously pretty much never a good strike. There's always murkiness in there. So if there's like more detail there, that's fantastic. Anyway, but that's different for every series. So you need to pick a series. You go to Great Collections, you pick your series. If you want to train your eye in general, you can just use any grading service, but you can pick one because the auction archive there has, you can filter by grading service, and that's really helpful because MS64 CAC is different than MS64 PCGS or NGC, as we know. So you pick your grading service if that's important to what you're trying to do, and you just open a bunch of examples in different tabs. And you want ones in particular that have the great photos. That's like anything in the last few years, I think, has a great photo. It's much more common in the last few years. So like 2022 to present. And then in each tab, you go open the great photo, and then you shuffle them all up, or you open them in random order. Either way, you need to not be able to tell based on the order which grade you're looking at. And then if you really need to, you want to go hardcore, you put your browser in full screen mode so you can't see the URL at the top. And then you can just go through the tabs and try and guess item number to grade. Like for this item number, I think this is MS63. For this item number, I think this is MS60. And if you do that enough times, you'll develop an eye for it. A little bit of trouble with that. It depends on the series and which service you're trying to do. You might not have enough material to work with, but that's certainly something that you can do in your PJs. It's pretty easy, and you can start developing this sense. You don't need to be super accurate. Like, you don't need to be good enough at grading to get hired by PCGS, right? You just need to be good enough to be within probably one grade one way or the other. Like if you can look at a coin and say, I bet that's a 65, and 90% of the time it's, within 1 point, either 64, 65, or 66, that's great. You can get to that point. Because then you can look at some BU coin that's actually, you think is an MS65, and bam, just about doesn't matter what the series or issue is, just about any date of any series, that's going to be worth quite a bit more than how it's priced. Because you can't sell an MS65 coin for MS65 money unless it's in a holder from a reputable grading service that says MS65 at the top. Anybody can just say this is MS65. It's like, okay, Joe, send it off to get graded then, because it'd be well worth the money. And if you can do that, it will more than pay for the price of grading. I mean, the difference between 60 and 65 on just about anything is enough to pay for grading. So that's a fantastic strategy if you have the eye for it. Definitely the most advanced strategy, but there's also the most opportunities because most people don't have the eye for it. So that concludes the 3 strategies on how to make money on a coin or banknote. All the same things, you just like take the word coin and supplant banknote. Pretty much the same strategies there. If there's anything, I don't know of any other ways to flip coins for a profit. So if you're aware of any, if there's anything that you've successfully done, drop it in the comments. And I'm sure everybody else would like to know. As far as I know, that's it. One final thing before I let you go. I said that I'm considering changing the name of my business. Currently, it's Lady Liberty Coins. I named it that because, coin guys, we spend all our time looking at depictions of Lady Liberty under magnification, and it only seemed appropriate to name the business after her. Also, my favorite series, the series that got me into coins, is the Walking Liberty. So, that's 2 for 2 reasons. I really like the Liberty theme, but I don't know about Lady Liberty. I even considered Miss Liberty, but that's way too effeminate. And Lady Liberty just seems, clunky. I'm considering Liberty Numismatics. A little bit wordy, but the kind of guys that are actually interested in buying NGC slabbed whatever, they're going to know what numismatics is anyway. It's going to sort of keep people who don't really know anything about coins from being attracted to it, which it's not that I don't want to attract people to it, but it does get a little bit tiresome to get people saying, "Oh, how much? What silver do you have? Your stuff is overpriced for, just being silver." And it's like, yeah, you have to be a collector to get it, buddy. Anyway. Let me know what you think. Liberty Numismatics, Lady Liberty Coins. Liberty Coins is taken. I also considered Texas Numismatics, but that sounds more like an organization than a business. Anyway, if you have any ideas, let me know. Or if you have a preference one way or the other, let me know about that as well. But all that having been said, thanks very much for tuning in. I appreciate you if you made it this far. Go to LadyLibertyCoinCo.com. Or you can look me up on eBay also. Prices are better on the website, so definitely buy from there instead of eBay. And if you live in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, you don't need to buy anything from me online. Just reach out at the email on my website or at my phone number, and we can make a cash deal happen so you don't have to pay for shipping. But that's all that I got for y'all today. Thanks very much for tuning in. God bless.